The Land of a Thousand Hills, a journey through time. Welcome to Rwanda, a small country nestled in the heart of Africa. It is often called the Land of a Thousand Hills. Imagine endless green hills rolling across the horizon, terraced slopes for farming, shimmering lakes reflecting the sky. This small country holds a history that is deep and complex. Ancient kingdoms, powerful kings, a society built on intricate relationships. Change came from outsiders who redrew maps and redefined identities. The journey of Rwanda is a testament to the resilience of its people. Periods of great prosperity, deep sorrow, and remarkable rebirth. We will travel through time like chapters to understand the forces that shaped this nation, beginning long before European contact, exploring the foundations of the Kingdom of Rwanda, witnessing its growth and the culture that held society together. Then, the arrival of colonizers from Germany and Belgium. Their policies altered Rwandan life, creating divisions and setting the stage for future conflict. Moving into independence, hope, and growing tension. Seeds of conflict sprouting after 1962, leading toward the nation's darkest hour. We will carefully and respectfully navigate the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. It is a period of unimaginable loss and pain, and we will approach it with the solemnity it deserves. Our goal is not to dwell on horror, but to understand its causes and consequences, and to honor the memory of those who were lost. Finally, the present day, recovery and reconstruction, a nation rising again. Efforts toward justice, reconciliation, and a unified national identity. A final chapter of hope and human resilience. Through this chaptered time travel, we will piece together the epic and moving story of Rwanda, a small country with a history as vast and varied as its thousand hills. The rise of a kingdom, power, and unity. Long before the world knew its name, a powerful kingdom was taking shape among Rwanda's thousand hills. The Kingdom of Rwanda did not appear overnight. It grew slowly over several centuries, starting around the 15th century. Its origins are tied to a group of leaders from the Nyiginya clan. These early rulers, known as the Mwami, were skilled strategists and leaders. They began to expand their influence from a small area, gradually bringing neighboring communities and clans under their control. This expansion was not always peaceful. Military conquest, strategic marriages, clever political alliances. The kingdom grew by absorbing other groups, creating a larger, more unified state under a single ruler. The power of the Mwami, or king, was central to this growing kingdom. He was seen as more than just a political leader. He was a sacred figure with a divine connection to the well-being of the land and its people. The king was responsible for ensuring prosperity, good harvests, and the health of the cattle. Rituals and ceremonies reinforcing the king's special status and his role as the ultimate unifier of the nation. This centralized power structure was a key reason for the kingdom's success. It provided stability and a common identity for the diverse groups of people, creating a strong and cohesive state. The kingdom's growth was also supported by a sophisticated military and administrative system. The Mwami had an army that protected the kingdom's borders and helped it expand. He also appointed chiefs to govern different regions, collecting tribute and making sure his laws were followed. The chiefs acted as the king's representatives, linking the central court to the communities scattered across the hills. By the 19th century, the Kingdom of Rwanda had become one of the most organized and powerful states in Central Africa. This pre-colonial kingdom was a complex society with a rich culture and a clear sense of identity. It was a world built on its own terms, with its own rules, beliefs, and ways of life. It is the world that would soon face a profound and irreversible encounter with forces from far beyond its familiar hills and valleys. A society of cattle, clans, and kings. Life in old Rwanda, before outside countries came, was tied to the land and the animals. about 20 groups called Ubwoko, big extended families, with patrilineal membership. People from all levels could belong. Hutu, Tutsi, Twa, a network beyond social divides. Cows were sacred. Not just milk, not just food, but a sign of wealth, a sign of power, a sign of social importance. This became Ubuhake. Someone with fewer cows could ask to use a richer person's cow and promised loyalty, worked the rich person's land, or joined their group. Most people were farmers, the backbone of the economy, skilled on Rwanda's fertile hills. They grew beans, sorghum, and bananas, which fed the kingdom. Farmers, Hutu, and cowherders, Tutsi, lived side by side, their lives deeply connected. A partnership one couldn't do well without the other. Life and identity before the Europeans. Before the arrival of Europeans, identity in Rwanda was more fluid. The terms Hutu and Tutsi were primarily social and economic categories, not rigid ethnic labels. A Hutu who acquired a significant number of cattle could, over time, become considered a Tutsi. Similarly, a Tutsi who lost their herd might become a Hutu. First encounters, a new power arrives. The end of the 19th century brought a new and unfamiliar force to the hills of Rwanda. In 1894, a German count, Gustav Adolf von Götzen, became the first European to meet the Rwandan king, Mwami Yuhi, the fifth Musinga. The initial encounter was one of curiosity and caution on both sides. At the Berlin Conference, European powers had already carved up Africa. Rwanda and Burundi were allocated to Germany and became part of German East Africa. However, for the first few years, the German presence was very limited. They largely chose to rule indirectly. That meant governing through the existing Rwandan monarchy, the Mwami, and his chiefs. The Germans supported the Tutsi elite. They saw the Tutsi as more, European-like and therefore superior. A prejudiced view based on racist theories. This decision to favor one group over others began to harden flexible social categories. The foundation of their society was being altered. Belgian control, remaking society. After World War I, control over Rwanda was transferred to Belgium. If the Germans had started the process of transforming Rwandan society, the Belgians would perfect it. In the late 1920s, the Belgians removed many of the traditional chiefs. They systematically deposed nearly all Hutu chiefs, leaving power almost exclusively in the hands of a select group of Tutsi. The Belgians replaced traditional obligations with a system of harsh forced labor and cash taxes, making the lives of ordinary farmers even more difficult. Missionaries, identity cards, and deepening divisions. Christian missionaries played a powerful role. However, this education was not offered equally. Access to higher education was almost exclusively reserved for the sons of Tutsi chiefs. The missionaries taught a version of Rwandan history that reinforced the idea that the Tutsi were a superior, foreign race who had come from the north to conquer the inferior Hutu-Bantu people. Perhaps the most infamous and destructive Belgian policy was the introduction of a national identity card system in 1933. This policy required every single Rwandan to be officially registered. Once written on the card, that identity could not be changed. It was passed down from father to child, locking every family into a rigid racial category for generations. It made the colonial hierarchy inescapable. Access to education, jobs, and political power could be granted or denied based on the single word written on a piece of paper. The winds of change, the Hutu Revolution. In 1957, Hutu intellectuals published the Hutu Manifesto. It criticized the political and economic monopoly of the Tutsi elite, and it framed the struggle in racial terms. The Belgian administration made a dramatic reversal of policy. After decades of supporting the Tutsi elite, the colonizers switched allegiance to the rising Hutu movement. In November 1959, the situation exploded. Widespread violence erupted across the country. The period, called the Hutu Revolution, saw organized Hutu activists attacking and killing Tutsi, burning their homes and driving them from their land. On July 1, 1962, Rwanda officially gained independence, but the joy was overshadowed by deep national divisions. Gregoire Kayibanda became the country's first president. The revolution and republic caused a massive refugee crisis. Tens of thousands of Tutsi fled. Exiles, stripped of home and citizenship, dreamed of returning. The decades following independence were marked by repeated cycles of violence. An attack from outside followed by massacres inside became a recurring pattern. Amid this chaos, the Rwandan army, led by General Juvenal Habyarimana, staged a bloodless coup, establishing the Second Republic. In the late 1980s, a group of young Tutsi exiles in Uganda formed a powerful and disciplined rebel army, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF. On October 1, 1990, the RPF invaded northern Rwanda from Uganda, starting the Rwandan Civil War. In response, hardline Hutu extremists used state-controlled media, especially the radio station RTLM, to spread messages of hate. RTLM broadcasts referred to Tutsi as inyenzi, or cockroaches. RTLM broadcast, dehumanizing slogans and calls to violence, delivered angrily into the microphone. They created and armed Hutu civilian militias, the most notorious of which was the Interahamwe. This relentless dehumanization was a deliberate strategy to prepare the Hutu population psychologically for mass violence. International pressure had forced President Habyarimana to negotiate. These negotiations resulted in the Arusha Accords, a peace agreement signed in August 1993. That spark came on the evening of April 6, 1994. The airplane carrying President Juvenal Habyarimana was shot down. Everyone on board was killed. Within minutes of the crash, they blamed the RPF. It was the signal they had been waiting for. Presidential Guard soldiers and Interahamwe militias immediately set up roadblocks. The genocide had begun. The Prime Minister, Agata Uwilingiyimana, a moderate Hutu, was one of the first to be hunted down and murdered. This decapitation of the moderate leadership ensured that there would be no one left to stop the violence. The genocide was not spontaneous. It was a highly organized campaign. Churches and schools became scenes of massacre. The primary weapons were not guns, but agricultural tools, machetes, and clubs. Neighbors killed neighbors. The UN peacekeeping force was present, but its mandate was weak. After 10 Belgian peacekeepers were murdered, Belgium and others withdrew their troops. The world knew, but chose to look away. For roughly 100 days, an estimated 800,000 to 1,000 people were murdered. The RPF renewed its offensive and fought across the country, the only force actively working to stop the killing and rescue survivors. In mid-July 1994, the RPF captured Kigali, bringing the 100 days of horror to an end. The country was completely destroyed. Fearing reprisal, more than 2 million Hutu were herded across the borders, especially into Zaire. The genocidal leaders hid among them. The deepest wounds were human. The country was filled with corpses, orphans, and widows. The challenge of justice was immense. Over 100,000 suspects were arrested. The formal justice system was completely overwhelmed. The challenge was not just to rebuild roads and buildings, but to rebuild a sense of shared humanity. The path forward required confronting justice, reconciliation, and memory. In the years since 1994, Rwanda has embarked on one of the most remarkable paths of national recovery in modern history. To address the crimes, Rwanda implemented the community-based Gakaka system, which processed nearly 2 million cases. The government promoted a new, unified national identity, banning the ethnic labels and encouraging all citizens to identify simply as Rwandan. Rwanda has pursued an aggressive agenda of economic development, investing heavily in technology, education, and healthcare. In governance, the country is known for its efficiency, low corruption, and a high representation of women in parliament, one of the highest in the world. Rwanda's story serves as a powerful lesson for the world about the dangers of division, the necessity of memory, and the extraordinary capacity of a people to rebuild, to reconcile, and to redefine their future.